Hello there, I am Tabitha Brown.
And I'm Chance Brown.
That's my husband right there. And you are watching Couch Conversations, and we're about to really get into it. So introduce yourselves.
Okay, my name is Gene Moore. This is my wife, LaShawna Moore. We've been friends for 30 years. We've been together 5 years and married going on 3 years. From Houston, Texas.
All right, Houston, Texas.
A whole lot of years there, bro.
Right, exactly. and what is something that you love about marriage?
Marriage is a beautiful interruption. Yeah, it's a beautiful interruption because it's a daily challenge to take two personalities and create that cohesiveness between the two personalities. You know, it's an intentional effort every day to be unselfish and to be considerate and thoughtful and proactive.
All of that.
Yeah, and so it's a challenge, you know, and it's not always easy on some days, but, you know, I'm always up for a good challenge, and because I love her so much, you know, I'm gonna do what I have to do.
Oh, very good.
For
What
me,
about you?
it's the friendship. Like, this is my boy. This is my homie.
Yeah.
This is my life partner. I consciously chose to navigate life with this dude.
Yeah.
So that's what I love the most, is our friendship.
Yeah.
And everything else just complements that.
Yes, love
Yeah.
that. Very good. All right. Come on in the room and tell us who you are and things.
All right, I'm Greg, this is Diamond. We met in 2007, we got married in 2008. And we have 4 children,
Oh, wow.
and we live in Moreno Valley.
All right, very good. Now, what do you love about marriage?
It's for us, it's the teamwork. We're a very good team together. You know, there are a bunch of tasks. You know, we have very young children, and we have to navigate a lot of schedules, all kinds of things like that, and just having somebody to be able to delegate stuff and to come back and be able to kind of debrief about it and, you know, just kind of de-stress together about it. It's huge.
Yes. What about you, Diamond?
I agree with the teamwork, and I just think also that Greg is my peace. So there's so much stress and just everything happening in the world. And so when we are together and when I can get back to him, I know that I can recharge, I can refuel. He is my
Yeah.
peace.
Oh, I
Agreed.
love that. Yeah, you my piece too. and a little piece of loving sometimes that's gonna bring us to the conversation for today, okay? So today I would love to hear from you all about sex versus intimacy, you know, because they're not the same thing, unless you think they are, and that's your business, okay?
Right.
But let's talk about it. You know, when it comes to sex and intimacy, I think for us, we've been together since we were 19, and so, you know, at 19, you don't know nothing about no intimacy. Honey, it's just you like a rabbit, all right? That's just my truth, okay? You ain't thinking about no feelings, and, you know, we just in it. And I think we were so very young in the beginning that we didn't realize how important intimacy was. I mean, you all have been together or known each other for a very long time, but you've been together probably as adults. So
Exactly.
you went in knowing that.
Right.
But for us, it was a little tough, I think, discovering intimacy later. But then when we did,
Hello.
it's all right, okay? Because that's what makes the sex better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think, babe?
Speak on it, Jane.
Well, let me see. I almost feel obligated to look out for 20-year-old Chance.
He didn't know no better, babe. He
And
didn't
say
know.
that the two of them were the same thing. But 42-year-old Chance has learned to appreciate the difference between the two. Intimacy to me is laying on the couch watching TV and falling asleep together. Being able to take a car ride with no destination, just being in each other's presence. And then sometimes intimacy is not even having to talk, just being amongst one another, but knowing that if I'm not going to talk, if I don't have anything to say, that it's okay and I'm with the person that I want to be with. Now, I like that sex thing too. Now.
Absolutely.
So,
Like it a whole lot.
but I've learned to appreciate
Yeah.
at 42 those moments, because I think life kind of teaches you the difference between the two and the importance of both of them. Both of them are very much needed in marriage, but at 42, I know the difference. At least that's what the difference is for me.
Right.
You know, I can get real bent out of shape if I don't get I don't get both of those.
Yeah.
Right. That's a whole different show. So, I mean, because we were so young, like I said, I feel like sex came before intimacy. But which came first for you all?
Wow. You want to answer? You want me to go first?
You sure you want me to answer first?
I'll go first. Let me go first.
Yeah, let her go first.
So we have an interesting story. We got married later. We got married in our 40s.
Oh, wow.
So I'm 45, he's 42. You know, by this time, you've experienced your definition of sex.
Yeah.
So for us, and I'll speak for me, I've regarded intimacy as like that sixth love language. You touched on it that it's not always a verbal thing, but it's that unspoken communication. I think it is the deepest part of being able to learn each other and being able to speak each other's language, reading our body language, disposition, being observant, watching what's going on in his life and he's watching what's going on in my life, and then being able to speak into that.
Yeah.
Whether it's by a touch or by something that is said. Intimacy, and then of course, it elevates the sex.
Yeah.
The intimacy is the work.
And the sex is easy. But when the intimacy and the sex comes together,
Right.
Yeah.
it's dynamite.
Yeah.
Yes.
More level, it's multi-level.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good. All right, so what about y'all?
For us, definitely intimacy came first. We met later in life, and we had both just come out of relationships. So for us, it was all about creating a friendship and building that intimacy. We chose to wait until we got married.
Okay.
Wait a minute. You can't just bro, y'all unicorns.
She actually brushed over.
Yeah, she tried to go over that thing. Now you gotta get. Hey, when you say that, you saying something. You gotta get a room a beat.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, so we had both come out of past relationships, failed relationships, and really had done work on ourselves to make sure that this union was lasting. And so as a result, and because of our faith, we decided that we would wait until we got married before we had sex. It wasn't easy.
And how long was that? How long did y'all wait?
So we got married 1 year after we met.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
because it's not easy,
brother.
Got on the fast track.
Right, fast track. We're gonna do this or not, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, all right.
Absolutely.
Our story is somewhat similar,
Similar, yeah.
too.
Y'all waited too?
We
Wasn't
waited, but because
Okay.
we didn't want to blur the lines of sex affecting our friendship. Like he was for real about the friendship part.
Yeah.
And then trying to transition into romantic, you know, romance.
Yeah, because one thing I told her, I said, listen, let's do, and I hate to refer to it like this, but it was almost like a probation period. I was like, let's just go out on some dates for about maybe a couple of months.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, we'll just agree that it doesn't work out and we're still gonna be cool.
Maintain our friendship.
Because, we've been friends for so long and the friendship aspect was so important
Very
to me.
special.
I didn't want getting in a relationship to, go bad and then the friendship is completely
over.
dissolved. Yeah.
Right.
So I said, okay, listen, if it doesn't work, then we'll just agree to part ways and we'll still be friends. But thank God, it worked.
It worked.
And a couple of dates turned into more dates and more dates and more dates. And then,
About a
here
year
we
and a
are.
half.
Yeah.
Wow.
You
A year and a
were-
half before sex?
Well, we dated for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Before y'all ever had sex?
Then we got engaged,
We
but we got
baby.
married that same year. So we planned that wedding
Yeah.
within a matter of months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We in a room full of unicorns.
Well, listen, to our defense,
No,
don't
you
forget
know,
now,
you
babe.
know.
Don't forget. So when me and Chance kind of got back, we was 19 though, we were very young.
Exactly.
But when we decided, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna be together.
Right.
I did not want to have sex because we had sex before,
Right.
maybe a year or so prior, and I was like, all the feelings went away.
Yeah.
And so when we decided, okay, let's give it another go, I was like, let's not have sex. So we waited 3 months. We didn't wait a year.
Right.
We waited 3 months though. I was like, now.
So, hey, look.
I got you, Chance.
So everybody up here gonna try to make me look like I'm the only one.
We were young though, baby.
Everybody like, hey, all y'all in cahoots.
Hey, Chance. Hey, one thing we can all agree with is that it wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy. That's right. 3 months,
wasn't
1
easy.
year and a half. It won't easy. So, but very good. So, therefore, for you all, and you as well, intimacy played a role first for you.
Definitely.
And then, but how important is intimacy versus sex? Or do you feel like they are the same in importance factors?
They're definitely not the same. And for us, like you were saying, one, you need intimacy. For us, we need intimacy in order to accentuate, I guess, our sex life. And if we are not intimate, if we haven't made those moments to connect, then there is not going to be any sex. Like it's not gonna have that same connection, that same meaning. So when we did wait the year until we got married, and because we got married so quickly after meeting each other, we wanted to really focus on us. We wanted to be selfish. But a couple years into that, we found out that we were infertile. And so the whole trajectory of our marriage changed. And so it was all about trying to get pregnant. And so we had that shift, which thankfully we had spent so much time building that intimacy. So when we made that shift, it was okay. It was difficult. It was difficult. And we did have to intentionally make times to be intimate, to build that connection, to make sure we were still friends in the midst of all of that.
So when you say it shifted, did it shift from naturally like, oh, honey, you look good, let's go and get it into, versus, look, this what time it is, we done took this, we done did this, we gotta have sex to try to have these babies?
I think that we shifted the purpose of our relationship. I don't know if that makes sense. So at first it was just about the friendship, just about getting to know each other. And then once that happened, then we did have that extra dynamic that we were grappling with.
Okay, you were in pursuit of something together. Okay. Yeah.
And it was a factor of like, okay, well, this clock is ticking. Like how can we make this happen? How can we achieve this goal that we didn't think was a goal, but now that it might be out of our grasp, like, okay, we have to go for it. And it, as far as the sexual dynamic, it was still good. We had the intimacy, but there was just kind of this strain, like of there being kind of an unrealized dream, possibly. So,
Okay. And now that you have children, you have 4?
We have 4.
Right. Now, how does that? Because let me tell you about the 2 that we had, in the house, and they 10.5 years apart. So we had some time, but we've been quiet for many years. If you know what I mean? Okay. How does that affect your intimacy and your sex life?
Right. We have 3 children under the age of 3.
Oh, God bless you.
Wow.
Okay. 3 under 3. Okay.
Wow.
So we have to be extremely intentional. And so for us, that is mandatory date nights.
Yes.
That's the children are in bed at 7 every night because we need that time to connect with each other. So.
Something specific, something special that we did for our anniversary was our anniversary was Sleep Under the Stars night. So we put the kids to bed and we set up a tent on our balcony. And we played some music and, watched the stars and, had our anniversary.
That's
Oh,
nice.
I love that.
Yeah,
Very
the whole
good.
vibe.
Yes. Okay, so as we've just heard, children can definitely be a challenge sometime. And I think every marriage has different challenges when it comes to sex and intimacy. Can you relate to that in any way?
Well, I wouldn't say that we had a challenge. I would say that we had a very horrific, in my opinion, circumstance.
Okay.
And I'll let my wife talk about that a little more, but grief hit our family. I lost my mother-in-law, and my wife, she went into a really dark place. And, I'll let her talk a little bit more about it, but, that alone definitely affected the intimacy part. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Initially going into the marriage, because again, we're married in our 40s and we just happen not to have kids.
Yeah.
Neither one of us. So it was this constant struggle of, okay, do we want to get right to it and try to have a baby? But then do we give ourselves room and space to breathe and find our own rhythm and our own flow? So we were constantly back and forth with that, but life started happening. So first started out with, just a long story short, me being diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, and then having fibroids, which both of those compiled together can make, having a child difficult.
Yes.
And so that was a lot for me to swallow because of the kind of work that I do. I'm a nutritionist and a holistic health practitioner. So I was like, how could this happen to me? I know how to eat. I know how to live. I know how to, manage stress and all this kind of stuff. And so that was the first thing. And that was building intimacy because this is a guy who had no blueprint about, number one, how to be a husband, let alone something as weighty as intimacy and how to serve and provide and support me during that time. And then last year at the hit of COVID, my mother passed, not from COVID, but she passed. And that just threw me. And this guy, not gonna cry, he stepped up because I went through all the emotions of, okay, am I supposed to literally try to think about having a child now? And my mom, there's not gonna be a Nana? And how do I go through this without her? So all of these different obstacles are there. And I think we really have spent time building our intimacy because during grief, I was not in the mood for sex.
Yeah.
And I could hear my mom's voice in the back of my head. She would always say, "You take care of your husband now. You take care of him. You make sure your husband is satisfied." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this for you, Mom. I'm gonna do this." And there would be times where we were supposed to engage, and I was just a mess.
Yeah.
And he would come pick me up. Sit with me, be present. Yeah. So we have really kind of just left the decision of having a child into God's hands. Honestly, if it happens, then we're great with it. Thankfully, my body is healing. Grief is a different process on its own. Yeah. But I love our rhythm. It'd be great to see a mini us running around. Yeah. But I love our rhythm.
And I want to say something too. She's giving me my props, but I have to give her props as well because, my parents divorced when I was like 6 years old. So I don't even remember, not trying to say anything disparaging against my father because my father's a good man, but I don't remember when my father was in the house because I grew up around two women, my mom and my sister. Yeah. So I didn't really have a blueprint for what it was to be a husband and, just paying attention to those nuances, that a wife needs, And when Shan and I got together, I can honestly say that we balanced each other out. We were patient with one another and, through a lot of time, a lot of prayer, a lot of intimacy, we've... communication. Yeah, a lot of communication. Yeah, a lot of communication. Yeah. We've, I feel like we've done a great job.
Very good.
You know what? Listening to you talk, I've spoke on that a couple of times, and you said something about your mom telling you to take care of your husband and all of that, right? I mentioned that before about not having a blueprint. Yeah. And when I'm listening to the two of you talk in terms of intimacy and going through it, and even just the passing of your mom, we went through that early on. In our mid-20s. And I struggle with the topic because I realized a lot of things that I did not do right by my wife. Not making any excuses, but I never experienced death.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was to be a supportive husband. And when I got married, that what I was signing up for, when they said through sickness and in health, it didn't just apply to her. Right. It applied to her extended family and the people that she loved and cherished as well. So when that time happened, when that unfortunate time happened, I failed a lot. even in the category of intimacy, because I didn't know what, in that situation, I didn't really know how to handle that.
Yeah.
And then me too, being a young man, I really didn't have the patience that I felt was needed to be supportive of my wife.
Yeah.
Now giving me a greater appreciation for intimacy, because I remember times with sex when I felt like it was my wife doing her duties and there was no connection, and that ain't the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
So you start to,
Yeah.
man, what is this about?
Right.
Like
right.
I'm missing something here.
Yeah.
I'm not, it ain't the same kind of satisfaction at the end of it. And at 42 now, I can look back and I can say what that stems from.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't appreciate intimacy and you didn't handle that situation right. So, yeah, in terms of, you know, what sex and intimacy is, there's a different value.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you though, because now you said you're 42, right?
42, yeah.
You're 42. How do you deal with, you just did something that I can relate to. You let her talk about her mom first. Why did you do that?
I can only sympathize, but I can't empathize. My mom is still here.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it feels like to not have my mom present. So I think that it would have been unfair if I would have tried to express her feelings for her. You know, I just did the lead in, but you know, I'm letting her express how she felt, and I'm just there to be the support.
Yeah, for years I wouldn't talk about it at all.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't bring it up, like, I'm just not gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
And if she talks about it, I'll wait for her to ask me a question.
Yeah.
And that was mainly because, you know, when I look back on it and I was like, I didn't handle that right.
Yeah.
Not something I'm very proud of. So I would just say, I'm not gonna talk about my mother-in-law at all,
Yeah.
which was not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
I don't think I was helping in that situation by just saying I'm not gonna talk about it, because her perception could be that, or I felt, you know, I learned later that it was like, you don't care.
Yeah.
You don't even talk about my mom.
Yeah.
But me, I was, you know, not
Right,
talking about it
right.
because Shane, you know, I didn't handle that right. Like, man, and I can't tell her, you know, I can't use no excuse that I didn't know any better. We talking about life and death right now, and somebody that, you know what I mean, that you're supposed to love.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
when you did that, I was like, I recognize that. You know what I mean? I'm very familiar with that. So I was just curious. But.
Good observation there. Which leads me to asking a final question of what does your partner do now that makes you feel, right? Whether it's, you know, that the intimacy, but makes you feel seen, I feel. I mean, for me, if I can say, one of the biggest things that I love is that how he watches me to know when, A, I'm either happy, I'm sad, I'm exhausted, or, you know, I'm excited. You know, he sees me, like he watches me, right? And so it's something that really does my soul well, because I'm like, oh, he see me. And that's a turn on for me. That, honey, I'd be like,
Yes.
oh, you noticed it?
Yes.
Oh, you noticed I was sad. Let me get my feelings together. But
Hey, you know I'm gonna be like this now. Hey, baby,
but those are the things that really speak to my heart. Just feel, you know, we're in a world where you can go a whole day outside of your home and never be seen.
Absolutely.
And then you come home, that's where you expect and hope to be seen and to be heard. So, what about you, babe?
The only thing that I would add to that is desired. That's it. On top of what she said is that, you know, I know for a lot of men, that's difficult for them to admit, is that we want to be desired just as well as women. You know, I want to be looked at. And when my wife recognized, and that don't necessarily mean in a sexual way, right? Just have the desire to want to be around me for me. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
In my world, and be engaged in what I got going on, no matter how big or small or insignificant it might be, you know, in yours is, you know what I mean, to be desired. And then too, on that other aspect too, hey, I like knowing that my wife, she wanna get it in too.
That's right.
So
And do.
There you go. Okay. Exactly.
Okay. What about you all?
I think the way that I know that I'm being seen is it's a busy season in our lives. So for you to know that Chance knows your emotion, I'm always exhausted. I'm just tired. And so the sexiest thing that Greg does is change diapers, poopy diapers specifically.
Okay.
So when he changes the children's diapers, I'm like, okay. Like, he knows.
Yeah.
He knows me. Like, he knows that I'm at my breaking point. He knows that I'm exhausted, and he knows that I need that extra help. So
yeah.
Yes.
For me, you know, we look at like love languages and stuff, and for me, it's like physical touch and like quality time. So I could be doing something, you know, not necessarily changing a poopy diaper, but I could be doing something, some task, some work, whatever, something around the house, and she could just come up and just kind of hug me, just kind of kiss me, whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
I like when he do the dishes, when he loads.
Hello.
Take that trash out. It'd be sexy the way the muscle in your arm moves.
It is not to be underestimated.
Okay, listen. And I would love to hear from you all.
Okay, ladies first.
I love that he doesn't assume. I love that he asks me, babe, what do you need? How can I pleasure you? How can I support you? What do you need from me? That's everything to me. And then too, like you said, Tab, like Chance, he is observant. You know, in a busy world that's self-centered, it's fast-paced, you're doing for everybody, you're giving all of yourself, and you may get a small thank you back from one or two people to come home, and even out of all of the things that he has on his plate, he is taking the time to understand what I need, to read me, to assess me, to stay in tune, to remember what, you know, I may have complained about or what I may have felt, you know, that night, and connecting. And then listen, let's not underestimate the domestic anointing. When I see him washing dishes or cleaning, like I've already told him that I'm like, it's good as own when I see you do that, because, you know, it's team. It's not gender, you know, driven. It is, what does this team need to move the ball forward? And I love that about him.
Yes, love it.
One thing that I appreciate that Shan does is she gives me time to reset. I think certain things that we don't always discuss in marriage is we all, or maybe I should say 90% of us, we need some time to reset our thoughts.
Yeah.
Because when you're married, it's a beautiful institution, but you're on, you know? You're always thinking about your spouse. And when you're coming home from a busy day and you've poured out and you probably had a stressful day, you probably just need some time to just be by yourself, get quiet, reset your thoughts, you know? And I remember when we first got married, that was kind of a challenge because, you know, she kind of perceived it as rejection. And we've learned to communicate, and I'm letting her know it's not rejection, babe.
Right.
You know, I just need to go into the guest room. I need to listen to some music. I need to reset my thoughts. And then, you know, hey, I'm good, you know. And it's not like I stay in the room for 3 and 4 hours, you know. I mean, just, hey, give me about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, I came in the house, I'm tired, I'm talked out, you know, I've been on calls, you know, so just give me about 30 minutes. And so now I feel like we're coasting in that area. She gives me that time, that space. And so, you know, once I'm refreshed, and I'm like, yo, so babe, what you want to do tonight? Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. I love everything that you both have said and shared with us. Thank you for trusting us with your feelings and your vulnerability. It's so amazing to be in this space with you all. So thank you for that. I encourage you all to continue to see each other, hear each other, give space when needed. Honey, I had to learn that the hard way, okay? For 23 years, I got it down. So, but, you know, continue to enjoy each other, your marriages. May you all be blessed abundantly in your journey. So thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.